Welcome to episode 8, friends. In February, we immersed ourselves in an alternate universe based in San Francisco around 2009. The Shamshine Blind by Paz Pardo puts us in the shoes of a scrappy female detective who, as most noir classics do, pulls the strings on uncovering deadly secrets that go much beyond her pay grade. This read gives us a whirlwind of car chases and conflict, along with touching on one's mental health and how people cope and heal. Thank you for listening. We hope you enjoy.
All right, welcome in, folks. Welcome to the Mess Hall Hangout. This is our monthly book club meeting where we discuss a book that's chosen by the community. I've got a new intro scene here loaded in, so I'm showing you what book we're reading. This book was chosen by the wonderful, amazing Aaron Schmidt. He's awesome, and I'm just going to jump us right over to the scene. So, get everybody do intros real quick as we usually do. You should know the usual cast of characters by now, but hi, I'm Gendred. This is my stream home, but this is also where we do this book club, and I love having it here. So next up is Squandy, also known as Aaron Schmidt. Give us a wave, Squandy.
Hello, this is Squandy. I am a book reader and friend of Jen. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. Kiki?
I am Kiki, and also a friend of Gendred's, and I also am an avid book reader.
And
Copycat.
And Copycat.
What?
And Annie,
I read a
Master
large
of Ceremonies.
variety of books. There.
Lover of sushi, Harry Potter, and all the
Yeah,
things.
sushi, Harry Potter.
Okay. Annie, you have the floor.
I have the floor. Hi, I'm Anne. So thank you, Gendred, for hosting yet another episode of Book Club. We're in our 8th week, which blows my mind. And this month's book was chosen by Aaron. And it was really good. It was awesome. You'll hear about it very soon. But I just wanted to showcase, first of all, the cover, because tonight's art is inspired by the cover, and apparently, according to the author,
hey partner,
I have mine from the
hey
library,
partner,
so I can't paint it, but if you can see, there's little paint by numbers here, and a little color guide. So if you have the book, the hard copy, you can take the cover off, and the author encourages you to paint by numbers.
That's awesome.
Which I thought was really cool. So I have my little paint by numbers here, ready to go.
Which will make more sense when we get into what the book is about.
For sure.
Get into it.
Oh, dude,
I
look
appreciate
at
you all being here and reading the book. Good choice. And first of all, so as you can see by the cover, it's in San Francisco, and we are in an alternate 2009 in the ruins of San Francisco. And I thought we should kind of do a little backstory or talk about where we're set before really getting into it. So it's in 2009 in the United States, after the Falklands War was won by Argentina. And I had to look up what the Falklands War was, and it's a 10-week undeclared war between Argentina and the United Kingdom. And in this world, in Shamshine, Argentina won by creating what they call psycho-pigments. And so each color has a feeling. I don't know if anybody else can word it better than that, or...
I guess like using modern warfare terminology, that they won using chemical warfare, but their chemicals essentially induce feelings in people. So they have chemicals for rage and happiness and all these things.
Yep. So
Yeah.
the way Paz talks about it, the way she came up with the idea is that it's paintball with feelings. So you load up a gun with Shamshine or sunshine yellow.
With your pigment
happiness.
of choice.
Yeah. And so, yeah, obviously something like that kind of technology is going to be used by the military or developed by the military first. So that makes sense, like world building wise, which I thought was really smart. And that kind of has like a butterfly effect. And so, and I want to say that the Falkland Wars was like in the early 80s. And so fast forward to 09, the butterfly effect has taken the United States out of its world dominance. And cities like San Francisco have fallen to like outbreaks of color. Magenta, I believe, is the color that overtook. Like there was a spill of magenta in San Francisco. So the main character works in Daly City. That's where our story starts and mostly takes place, in Daly City.
Yeah, I guess
Daly
that's
City,
like-
San Francisco.
the other detail I guess I would say is that part of the chemical warfare of these colors is that they stick around for a long time. They don't just evaporate and go away. And so San Francisco, New York are like covered in these clouds of emotional chemicals and just can't, they're no longer livable spaces.
Yep. I love the
Like-
part. Sorry.
Oh, I was just gonna say, to piggyback on that, where it's like these big cities that we know of are like don't exist. Like we don't really hear about New York, but we hear about the big potato instead, which is Boise, which I thought was
Oh,
Yeah,
the,
a
I didn't
lot of
catch
things
that.
changed.
Yeah, the big potato.
Big potato.
And something that exemplifies kind of what we're talking about is later in the book, there's like a chase where they go into San Francisco, which has been abandoned because of this magenta outbreak. It's almost like a nuclear fallout. It's like a Chernobyl, where like if you go there, you're going to get irradiated, and there's a sign that warns you you're entering this zone. Your feelings might not be your own. And I thought that was really like a good way of like summarizing kind of how this all works. But yeah, it's like a noir detective. So we start out with this mystery of the people, depressives in the world, in this new world, take sunshine yellow, happiness, to combat their depression. It's like a antidepressant, and because of that popularity, obviously there is a market, a black market for this stuff, and that is labeled as Shamshine instead of sunshine. So that's where part of the title comes from. So we initially get thrown into this this Shamshine. Somebody who's making this.
who's
this
making the
Shamshine.
fakey sunshine yellow? Who's making
Exactly.
yeah. And then we open up with researching or trying to find out who's making the Shamshine yellow. Finding out that cops these days are depressed people. Specifically the pigment enforcement cops are depressives because they find that they make the best cops, which I thought was really interesting. but they're all medicated with a certain amount of yellow to like balance them out. But
Cool.
they've been through training to know how to feel when they're being inhibited by other pigments.
I thought it wasn't that they were depressed, but that they repressed their own emotions, right? So, like, it's not that they were sad, it's just they were less emotive. Is that not right?
I thought it was they
I-
were depressed.
I'm pretty
Or-
sure at one point she states that all the pigment officers are depressives.
Right.
Yeah.
But
And
I didn't
guess
know what
I
that word
interpret
meant.
that as they have depression, but maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, I suppose you could take that as whatever. I'm not sure that she specifies exactly what that means, but
Oh,
that's
yeah, I didn't catch that. I got it. Yeah, I thought it was more like suppressing their emotions, but
I'm not sure.
not sure.
yeah. Either way, they take their prescribed sunshine yellow happiness, and they're trained to know when their emotions are being manipulated by a pigment.
Yeah, like when there's a car chase, and she goes through the magenta, and she's like, I know my feelings aren't my own, and I know like this is the magenta. What is it? It's not magenta rage. It's like magenta is like crazy passionate or something.
Yeah. It's like
yeah, so
longing, so she starts to like reminisce about things and like remember them like nostalgically, kind of, I think.
Right. So we open up, and it's cool. It's a noir theme, opening up on like the ruins of San Francisco, which is really cool. The way that they described her drive to Pimsley's shop, and then their description of Pimsley's shop, I thought was really cool. And then I thought it was interesting too that it's a female as our lead instead of your typical male noir smoking detective. So I thought that was really neat. So she initially is sent out to look into the fake sunshine yellow, but then ends up getting called on another case because somebody has just committed suicide, and it's for a major corporation that produces pigment pharmaceuticals.
Right.
I want to say one thing right there. Like right off the bat, you know, they fill you with all this like nostalgia, and they talk about Pimsley's shop, and he picked the location that he did because of like the nostalgic air of it. And she even goes on to describe how he could, you know, he does really well. He could have a much nicer location, and he's like, no, like this location's good because like I feel like, you know, all my customers feel like I'm their secret, you know, so like this is more out of the way, makes me a better shop for them. And I just thought that was really interesting, an interesting take on it. Also,
And then
Yeah.
we also find out that he's not just an antiques dealer. Pimsley is a really good character. I really enjoyed having him around. And he and Curtida, our main character, is Kay Curtida, and they have this banter and back and forth that's really nice. And I guess coffee is rare.
it seems like instant coffee is common, but like old-fashioned
Yeah.
style of like making coffee from coffee grounds is not common.
I was gonna
Yeah,
say
yeah.
that this episode is sponsored by Nescafe.
It is not, but if they want to send us some money, sure.
We'll accept
She
it.
makes like 90 cups of Nescafe throughout the book. Like I feel like every other chapter she's like, and then I poured my cup of Nescafe.
She's always pouring the cup, but I'm like, does she ever drink it?
Right.
She might be like me, where like if once it gets cold, you don't want to drink it anymore, so you go make a new one.
Yeah. fair.
So she goes to investigate this suicide and ends up unraveling what our entire book is about, to the point where she is ruffling so many feathers that all the higher ups are trying to get her off this case. And they do, technically, I guess they do take her off the case. But in typical noir detective fashion, she doesn't take no for an answer.
Yeah, there was one thing also about her specifically that sort of rubbed me the wrong way in the beginning. It's like she's like 3 months from retirement. It's like they really.
Oh, yeah, she's
that,
like
that was super
39.
cliche to put in there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I agree.
She's
But also, like,
39.
I get it at the same. I get it, but like, it's a little
Forced.
too cliche. But
Yeah.
you know what?
I'll let it
It's
pass.
fine.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Well, like a lot of people, if they like their job, they don't want to stop, and it's hard for them to quit. So she took
That-
advantage.
She definitely doesn't seem like she wants to retire. It's like she's like
Yeah, exactly.
dreading it more than
She loves
hey,
it.
I'm retiring, guys. She's definitely like
Exactly.
she feels like she hasn't made that big break.
Right.
That's
exactly.
what she's searching for, and she thought the in her mind the Shamshine case was going to be her big break. Then they took her off that case, and then she thought this next one with the pharmaceutical company was going to be her other big break. And then they took her off that one. So she gets assigned to the suicide case, and in investigating the case, she finds out like maybe a new pigment, right? Or is it as
Well-
she's researching, she's finding out these people were heavily drugged by pigments?
Right. So there's the CEO of this company that's the cousin of her partner Tommy, the chick, and they have like an exchange, and so like that's also worth mentioning, I think. But like, I believe it's that Kay sends something to her friend at the office, and he is like, there's some sort of new pigment in this and that I don't recognize, and that kind of sends her down this like, oh, there's somebody's developing this new type of pigment,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
but they don't know why or what. Yeah.
so she shows up to the suicide spot. Obviously in this case, like suicides aren't uncommon, unfortunately, and so she's like actually sort of like having this terse conversation with a guy she kept calling Shiny Elbows at the location, and essentially he lets on that, oh yeah, well, we got 2 more crazies upstairs, and she's like, oh, okay, well, if there's multiple, it's very likely pigment related. Okay, show me to them. And it seems like these people have been dosed pretty heavily with some pigments, and it's like, but none of it makes any sense. An example being,
Why would they be dosed with so many pigments?
so most people
doing it?
like who take the pigment in question in this particular suicide is like generates fear. It's like and so a lot of people, she says, a lot of people take it because they think that they like being afraid, and she's like, that's really not true. But they took it in a different form. They took it in a gel cap, which is just not normal at all because it's not going to wear off as quickly as it should. And so things just aren't making sense. And so that leads her to be like, something's wrong. And so she sends samples to her friend Doug, who's like an expert on this subject, and who actually was in town for the Shamshine case because he brought down the details for it. And he starts putting it together. He's like taking apart the pigments that these people were exposed to, and he's like, it's not reading right. It's not coming through right. Something's wrong here. Like definitely, this is his job. His job is to detect what pigments people have been hit with and figure it out. Hey, casual.
Yeah,
Welcome
like
in.
he's the R&D guy from the Big Potato coming to help.
Is that
his
the same
friend
guy that's
from
her
school.
ex?
Yes,
Yeah,
Doug. Yes.
They're,
Yeah.
Okay.
they're kind of exes.
She like thinks about him and like wishes that they got together and stayed
They
together.
Yeah.
both think about each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I kind of
It's a
like that
real-
dynamic.
I do
Will
too.
they, won't they?
It was kind of a realistic, like, it could have worked out in another time and place, but it just never did. And we
Here we
think
are.
about each other and we work together, and but the end was kind of nice, because but
He experimented too much with pigment,
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
and was
He
and was
the
like,
one who,
and
like, to
ladies.
take
and yeah,
hits
exactly.
of magenta.
He hits the
'cause
magenta,
magenta's-
and
but
he,
not,
as
like,
he said, it
hardcore,
turns
just
him it
enough.
turns him into like pretty like dopey. He's like very much. He feels like he stared at one girl's earlobe for an hour, thinking of like stupid words
It
or
was
something
the
like
most
that.
perfect
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah,
His
yeah. So
magenta triggers
in there, brother.
Those earlobes, man.
those
Those
earlobes.
and like magenta is a big topic throughout the whole thing because of the big magenta attack in San Francisco, which like caused so many problems. And there's all this there's this whole side story about the magenta attack happened at this particular concert, and like everybody at the concert got hit, and this one woman's like, I saw my soulmate on a corner, whatever, like that, and that's all she can think about now is like her soulmate that would have been.
Well, obsession can become so dangerous too.
Magenta, with the amount of magenta that they pumped in at that concert, it was getting to be like you're so obsessed that you literally tear the person apart.
They did. The band got
Yeah.
murdered by
The
the
band
crowd.
got completely massacred.
It totally reminded me of the Rick and Morty episode where Morty wants Rick to make
when
a
they create the
when they create the Cronenbergs.
what are they called? Yep, the Cronenbergs.
Everybody, the whole town falls
Yep.
in love with Morty.
Yep.
Yeah. But so in the interview that I watched with Paz, she says that it wasn't just magenta that overtook San Francisco. That it at different times, it was multiple different pigments that had outbroken by different groups, and it was just that those hippies at that concert with magenta, that was just the biggest last one. So there's many different emotions that people feel when they go back to San Francisco, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah, like as one of her car chases, she has multiple car chases. But everybody's freaking out because they're like, you went into the zone without any sort of, I don't like the word that they use it. You didn't go out with your has-pig suit.
Yeah.
And I get it, where it's like your hazardous pigment suit.
Yeah, it doesn't sound right though.
But
They should
I'm
just
your
use like
has-pig
hazmat,
suit.
but I don't know why.
Yeah. So every time I read that, I rolled
Has-pig.
my eyes.
Hazmat.
Has pig. But she finds herself in many situations where she's not in her has pig gear and runs the gamut of emotions. But she seems to be able to control a majority of them. But I know she also says that she is weakest towards the gray ennui, which just, I didn't really know what ennui was, but it just like numbs you when you get hit with the slate gray, to the point where, is it the slate gray or is it the deepest blue where like your body can forget how to like breathe?
The deep blue can wipe out like your memories and stuff like that.
And your like memories for normal bodily function.
Yeah, so like your like your body can forget to like pump blood through its veins and stuff like
Yeah.
crazy stuff like that.
Okay, so that's the deepest blue.
Yeah,
but
that's the
the
deepest
gray
blue.
ennui makes you like, I don't know, like lethargic. You don't do anything, and so the cops use slate gray to subdue, but the bad guys use deepest blue in their weapons because they want to kill everyone.
She does get slate gray car bombed though,
Yeah.
which that was a cool scene too.
Slate gray stops you from caring about anything, including your own safety.
Yeah.
That's why it
Yeah.
affects her so much too, because of like her depression and the stuff that she was dealing with from her past. So that's why it's her Achilles heel type.
I thought that was all. My biggest problem with the book was this course of events with getting the. Okay, so in the morning, she gets car bomb, slate gray on weed, which just like totally fucks her up, right? She gets sent home. She goes home. She showers, but she's got the dinner ball that night.
Yep.
So she gets dolled up to go to the ball. And then at the ball, she gets the call to go to, there's the Shamshine is
that
go to
house,
San Francisco. And so she drives to San Francisco and goes through this car chase. And then she catches the criminals. And then she takes the criminals back to the place and she interrogates them. And then she goes back to the ball and finishes the ball. And then goes home. And I'm like, that all happened in one
night.
That's a lot, yeah.
I have a hard time believing that happened in one day. I feel like it would be okay if, like, you didn't go back to the dining, like the ball at the end of that, and just like, oh, it's over now, and it's like the early morning of the next day or something like that. But like to make it seem like that all happened where that party was still going on is like a little unbelievable. That part kind of bugged me a little.
Yeah.
There are a few parts in the book where I was like, this can't be in the span of like 6 hours, is it?
He time moves slow.
The
It's
pacing
crazy.
is a little wild. It's almost like a Die Hard movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
So then we also find this connection. So she has her partner Tommy, who she's like still training, I guess.
Tommy the Cadet.
Tommy the cadet, who is, I don't know, I thought he was annoying at first, but then I kind of liked him at the end. But so she has Tommy in tow for a lot of it. And then we find out that one of the head scientists that was helping create pigment for the psycho-pigment company that the person committed suicide at, Tommy is related to their main suspect, who, of course, during her interview, flees, which makes her even more suspicious. Priscilla Kim,
Yeah.
in her high heels and red lipstick. So she's a constant theme throughout the book. And we find out eventually that she has, well, I guess first of all, they haven't created a pigment for every emotion yet. And new pigments are constantly trying to be developed, and in their development, fake ones come out, and so you get like the fake sunshine yellow. But then, so Priscilla Kim is a scientist, and she has published books that in the community aren't being taken seriously.
Well, her
Which-
testing methods were not good.
Suspicious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the,
She's
the
very
community
sus.
like totally disregards her because she's done some not so good things. They're like, we can't trust your results because your testing doesn't make sense. And she was
Yep.
part of the the pigment industrial complex, I'll call it, like trying to just churn out pigments, right? So they have very shady methods to do some of those things, and she was trying to do real research within that situation, and it was just not the right way for her to go. She she's brilliant, but she just really went down the
She's
wrong path.
brilliant, and she was like, well, crap, this is my opportunity to prove my methods. Unfortunately,
I think
it's not
she's the
very
best
good.
character.
I thought
She's
she
my
was
favorite
great.
character. She has this like fatal flaw of wanting approval and being a legitimate genius, but not getting seen, and so then being pushed to these means that are unacceptable and like beyond the law, and then her ultimate downfall, and teaming up with people, with the bad guys, and yeah, just the way her whole arc started and ended, and her backstory and stuff was like absolutely my favorite part.
So like when we finally find the connection of like who's the link between all of these people tying all of these stories together, I thought it was going to be Tommy because of his connection to Priscilla, since they were cousins and they were really close. So I was like, as soon as the book got to that part, I was like, it's Tommy. Fuck, like Tommy. In my mind, it's like, the person you least suspect has this other completely like 180 side to them, and he's like Tommy isn't as aloof or as naive as we think he is, and he's really like pure evil. But turns out I was wrong. Thank God.
Yeah. See, I was more in line with Kay's assessment of Tommy, that he was just like this doofus. he's really,
Yeah.
and he really sort of like, there is he does have secrets, as we find out later on, but like he really.
Yes.
He got into pigment enforcement because one of his aunts got killed by Shamshine blind or something, like Shamshine. Like, so that's why he's there. He wants to be, like actually solving these crimes. So, but
He's
Priscilla
got a
sort of like cast
passion.
doubt
He
on
has
all
a
that.
drive. Yeah.
There's a character we need to introduce in order for the ending to hit.
The administrator, or the little, what's his
The
name?
the
The mole?
no, the one that's trying to get all the followers.
Oh,
the
Ananda Shaji.
Yeah, like the reason that the
yeah.
you know
So, how does she get introduced? Just there's like
she's at the ball.
she has
just like peppered in everywhere.
I mean,
she's on the TV in the very beginning. She's on the TV and she's just mentioned, and then she's at the ball, and it's just like a little. Oh, she's like making these new places for people to come and worship or whatever.
Yeah, because she's like the head of our toxic positivity movement.
And Kay actually reads her
she's-
biography through part of the book.
Mm-hmm.
So what's Ananda Ashaji is our like wellness guru.
Thank you,
Who
Guru.
is she's actually what, like a white Norwegian lady, right? Who went over to India and was reborn as Ananda Shaji, and she is she's a guru, head of this cult. Pinkies, the Pinkies is what they're called, and Kurtida, our detective, actually has a neighbor who's super into it, who she tries to avoid at all costs whenever she's at her apartment. So Ananda has found her way into people's lives with her positive guru cult. So she has like numerous chapels. I don't know.
Yeah, centers or like
Yeah.
yeah. I started
She
thinking
has
of
numerous centers around town.
the Tom Cruise cult, whatever that is.
yeah,
Scientology.
Yeah.
yeah.
The centers.
So they definitely like piece her and put her into these spots, which at the end we find out why. But it makes sense. But as usual, Kurtita is skeptical. Because Ashaji has this theory called the hope depletion. And from what if anybody else really understood what happens, because like it's this like thing where you can like forecast the hope depletion in the air, and they're like, oh, the levels of hope are so low today, that's why I'm feeling down. But I thought in the beginning Kurtita was like, I don't believe in that. But then throughout the book she keeps mentioning it. She's like, hope levels today are at an all-time low. So I never really like quite understood the hope depletion aspect of it.
So I took it to be that like, and there was no clear cause mentioned in the book, but the source of a lot of these like chemicals are from like essentially they bottled up people's actual emotions, but because of all the shit in the world and all the pigment and everything, like finding people that are actually hopeful is really difficult, and like you see that throughout, like that's a common thing she talks about. I don't know that Kay necessarily doesn't believe in hope depletion, but I think she definitely doesn't buy into the cult, right? So for her, like I think her picking up on today, I feel really down, like, but it's not the hope depletion isn't like the hope levels aren't really being reported as down, but I feel it. Like it's almost like, you know, an old sailor telling you, you know, a storm's coming because he can feel it in his knee. That's how it kind of sounds. There's no real backing of it though. It's just extra color to her Kay's constant fluctuation of emotions, it feels like.
Yeah.
I think that's a fair read.
Let's see, what else am I saying? Ananda Ashaji.
I just knew we needed to introduce.
Yeah,
Hi there,
she's
mister.
important.
Hi there, mister.
Hey, Maduka.
Oh, and I guess it's also a fair thing to mention too. So Kay is from Florida, so she's always she moved from Florida. Her father died in the Falklands War by being hit by deepest blue. We assume that he's dead because he just hasn't returned home yet. So he was in the Navy, got hit by deepest blue. We haven't heard from him again, and for the longest time her mother was very hopeful and positive, and leaned into a lot of Ananda Ashaji's teachings. Until one day it like hit her that her husband was not coming home and is probably
I can't do it.
dead.
I can't do it live. Okay. We'll do it live. No. We'll do it live. Fuck it. No. We'll do it live. Do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live. Fucking thing sucks. Fucking thing sucks.
Yeah.
So
Sorry about that.
her mom is a subscriber to a point of this positive outlook. Everything's
mister.
gonna be okay.
Hey, mister.
Outlook on life, which is fine because it gets, it helps her cope for
Right.
a certain amount of time. So as we continue on with our story,
Do you guys know who Jay Shetty is?
I do. I love Jay Shetty.
Okay.
I have one of his books too.
Did you know? Okay, so by the way, did you know Jay Shetty just got like exposed as being like a total fraud?
Yeah.
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 But also like this
Tell us
whole
the
this
tea.
whole book, I thought of this character lady as Jay Shetty. in my
Ananda?
head canon. Yeah. She was Jay Shetty in my, because she kind of does the same thing that Jay Shetty does in real life, except for he has a podcast.
I'm
That's
sure if
disappointing.
this wasn't Alt 2009, Shaji would have her own podcast.
Right.
Probably.
So throughout the book, they use Pimsley, our antiques dealer, as like their go-to guy of where they can find the fake Shamshine and stuff like that. And then he ends up, well, with their connection, obviously, as the story goes on, all of Curtita's connections somehow end up dead. So, in their investigation in a shootout, they are led to an apartment where I think this scene was like meant to deter Curtita and finally maybe like stop her from investigating further. But it only makes her more interested because she ends up finding Pimsley's body. And it's only after the fact that we find out why it hit Tommy so hard, because Pimsley and Tommy were in a relationship together. Or starting to become in a relationship.
Well, I mean, so I think
They were
how that broke down is like they were at Pimsley's antique shop and it was like trashed, and Tommy was way more broken up about this than he should have been, right? And so it was like,
Yeah.
and so Kay was like, nobody's ever found his hideout, and he goes, except me. And then we find out, oh shit, they're much closer, and essentially, yeah, courting. I don't know, they didn't get into the specifics of it, but we definitely know that Tommy has feelings for Pimsley.
They were seeing each other.
Yeah.
Which
There's
then I was like, that made me really sad because I was like, these are such two cute little characters. I would have loved to see where they would have ended up, but
I like
got
Pimsley
caught
and
in the
Tommy a lot.
crossfires. Yeah. And we find out as they're searching Pimsley's shop that he has some experimental pigments in like a hidden drawer.
Yeah.
And so he is connected as well to Priscilla Kim, Tommy's cousin.
Hey there, mister. Hey there,
Hi,
mister.
V8. Welcome in. Hope you're feeling well. Okay. Well and
Yeah,
okay.
hope you feel good. Feeling
Hi,
better.
V8.
But so they find what one vial is missing.
V8. That's
Yep.
V8.
So they open up his sort of like collection, which is hidden, obviously, his hidden compartment thing, because he has a thing for clandestine things, and in there's a missing vial between a couple of colors, and it's very obvious that missing vial is critically important because there shouldn't be a color there.
Nothing else is missing in the shop, and it's torn to bits. So we find out it's Tommy who has it, right?
No.
I thought he gave it to Tommy.
Did he? Does anybody else
I
remember?
thought so.
Yeah, I thought I gave it to
I
Tommy.
could be wrong. I don't remember.
I thought he gave it to Tommy for safekeeping because Pimsley knew something was going to happen.
Yeah, for sure. Pimsley definitely knew something was up.
I feel like he was like, nobody's going to suspect Tommy's going to have this
Kay
special
was
vial.
also
And it was
very
Oh, yeah.
sidelined by this whole thing because, like, Pimsley is known for being a collector of like rare pigments, like just things that people can't get easily, not for cutting edge pigments. So this was very out of character for Pimsley as well.
Yeah, and we find out it's positioned between mauve and crap. I forgot what mauve is.
Yeah.
Mauve Faith.
No, Faith is the new one.
Mauve.
Faith is the new one.
So Mauve might be the new one. I can't remember right if this exactly.
Mauve is the new
Remember
one.
And Mauve is Faith. So it was between
Yes.
like Hope and something else, like the color spectrum.
Yeah. Oh, I should. Yeah.
I wish I had like a diagram of when Priscilla's like findings, because she goes into it. No, it's not me painting. That's Annie doing color by numbers, because the book
Buddy?
cover is a color by numbers.
Buddy?
thing. Hey, Boneless, welcome in. I am doing color by numbers as well on my iPad, just because I was enjoying watching it, and so I was doing it too. But Annie's is much more authentic.
Great. What's in the basket?
Oh, on my thing, it's hamsters.
Oh, hamsters. I was wondering what animal.
Like what?
What's in the basket, Annie? What's in the
No,
basket?
no. Yeah, what's in the basket?
I was gonna say that Tommy is like Andy in
Yes.
Twin Peaks.
Although I don't feel like he's
yeah.
as dopey as Andy, but I
No,
do feel he's
but-
dopey.
Close-
He's like
close
very
enough.
very
He's
similar
Andy.
characters.
Yeah, he's like the least suspecting, and I think that's why like Annie was like, it's Tommy, and I think a lot of people thought it was Andy, because of that. Like, no, that guy, he's the least suspecting.
He's
in that
too
they're-
dopey.
But isn't that funny how that comes back around to the mole, who's also the least suspecting later on?
What's
Yeah.
his name? I forgot his name.
I don't remember.
Me neither. I wish this book was more popular so that you could Google it, but you can't Google anything about this book.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't write it down.
Sorry, now I should have written a better summary, because I just put stuff that really intrigued me. But so Pimsley dies. They find Pimsley's body. Tommy's broken up. Kay's like, what? What is this missing pigment? Who created it? We ended up finding out that Priscilla Kim has been wanted to develop hope, wanted to capture hope, but ended up creating what they have now is like faith instead. And because she worked for the pharmaceutical company, who is also in bed with Ashaji, who is also involved with the politicians, once they find out that Priscilla Kim has manufactured lavender faith or lavender something. I need to take better notes. But so she creates this lavender, silvery, shiny new pigment for like zealot, or like it. The effects.
It's like
would,
devotion. Like,
yeah, like
it creates undying devotion to someone. And yeah.
And so the end game essentially is to use this new lavender faith, lavender hope on people to draw them to Ashaji and essentially make a cult following even more like extreme.
Birdie is the mole. His name's Birdie.
Birdie, that's right.
Did you actually Google it?
No, I just brought up the ebook and
Opened
like
the
flipped to
book.
the chapter and knew it was
Oh.
Dude, okay.
chapter 31.
That is one goated reason for ebooks. Okay,
True.
people who diss ebooks, go search through a physical book like that so fast. I don't think.
I knew it was in like the later chapters, and so I just flipped to chapter 31, and his name's in like
Yeah.
the second paragraph.
Dude, that's a good.
He
feature.
also like has no shame either when he's like caught by Curtida, because he's like, as she's trying to like get the information out, he's yelling out her window like, they went that way.
Well, because he's just like a hapless. He's okay. He is Andy if Andy were a mole. he's like I thought this
He's
spy
the-
gig would like pay until I retired, which was supposed to be a year, but Captain kept keeping me on, so I'm still here. And like,
Yeah.
but he was forthright with her the whole time. He's like, no,
Yeah.
it's the he's like the
the
gauchos. The gauchos, like they're not bad guys. like yes, they are. Do you know how much they beat up Cortida earlier? Yes, they are bad guys.
Oh yeah, she gets beaten to a pulp on numerous occasions.
They really do.
That part also is a little over the top because she like the span of time. If you beat up a 39-year-old, as much as she gets beat up, they wouldn't be moving around at all for a week.
Right. After so recently getting slate grayed, magenta'd, car chased, car crashed,
Yep.
blued, fucking yeah. Like it's a
She goes
little.
through-
Person
whole
gets a
gamut.
lot.
K is like insane, but
But she's that noir detective that you can never beat down.
true.
She'll always keep getting right back up.
But I think that is my favorite scene when she gets the vial of the new stuff. When she goes to Tommy's apartment and finds out that his cousin, what's her name? I always forget.
Priscilla Kim.
has been living there.
Oh yeah, I
And
guess it's
she
fair
kind
to
of-
mention that they haven't been home. They don't really live at their home because they keep getting hit with pigments, so they kind of like live at the hospital. So what you're going into is when she goes back to get Tommy's clothes,
Yep.
and we find
And
Priscilla Kim.
Priscilla's there, and she kind of gives this big exposition of like
Why I
her-
did what I did.
what she did, and then she ends it, and
Well, what does she say? She's like, if they find out that I told you everything, like they're gonna kill me anyway.
so she jumps out the window or like falls out the window. And
She jumps.
I love that scene. I thought that chapter was so good and gripping. I
When
loved
she
it.
sets Curtida up with everything she needs, she's like, there's my diary, here's the notes to how I captured this emotion.
Make sure you
can
credit me
have
for
it.
it. Jump.
Yeah, make sure you credit me. See you later.
Right.
I'm going out this window.
It's such a good characterization of Priscilla and a final. Yeah, I loved her character. I thought she was, and she's not in it a lot. She's like very in the background, but she also has so much characterization and such an interesting life that you just kind of hear about. And that's why I like her so much.
I agree.
So she finds the notes, and then our team of misfits decides that they want to try and capture Hope
In the wild.
in the wild. And normally that's
Impossible.
getting a group together, almost like a group think, and they all have to have like the same emotion at the time. So capturing Hope is going to be very hard, but they decide to trick Curtita's mom, because her mom has always been all about hope and wanting good things for her daughter and wishing that her daughter was not in the profession that she is and things like that. So Curtita fake marries one of her coworkers.
Yeah, who's always in the
hopes
news.
to capture, yes, who's always in the news. And this is where I was like, they never say, like, they did capture Hope in the wild, yes. But I wonder if it's not from Curtita's mom, and if it was from Curtita and her main squeeze, Doug.
That's a very good question.
Yeah, that's a very interesting question.
I think that's by design. Yeah, I think you're supposed to wonder that, because I also did.
Who did the hope come from? Because I think to a point her mom was hopeful, like, oh, my daughter is finally getting married, I'm excited, I'm hopeful for her future. But there's always that longing that they bring into the entire book, where will Curtita and Doug get together? You can see they clearly like each other. They had a one night stand, which she doesn't remember because she chose not to remember.
She gave herself the
by
blue to
taking
forget it.
The blue. She blued herself into forgetting. So
The
Doug
eternal
knows
sunshine of the spotless mind or something.
of the blued mind. So she doesn't remember this night, but Doug does. So Doug is hopeful.
He's had this candle lit for her this
Yes.
whole time.
Yeah.
Kind of
Which I
adorable.
thought was really cute. Yeah. And then at the end, they leave it up to us of like, oh, maybe they do get together. So I kind of
Well, she gets this big job offer by Big Pigment.
the big
to-
potato.
Yeah, to come to Boise and like finish her career as a big dog. But also like they're the fucking problem, like they're the bad guy, and they're really trying to like shut her up. And so the big thing is like, is she gonna take that big promotion? And then also, is she gets offered to be the chief at the end.
The new chief. Yep.
And so is she going to take that or not? And I like the ending of her just kind of giving this speech and answering all these questions and her internal dialogue. It was like it was good corny. I thought it was.
But I think every noir book, it skirts the line of what's corny.
I had no problem with it, but you know,
It's like
it's
like
satisfying.
anytime I think of a noir TV show, they're always like, yeah, see, you know. So it's like a level of corniness like that. That's like necessary in this kind of genre.
I thought it was very cute, very totes adorbs, good intrigue, good characters, little weird pacing wise at points.
And there's
Timing,
what I
yeah.
like about it is like you can take it at surface level, but you can also like peel it apart. So like if you really want to dive into deeper meanings and things like that, you can. And so that's what I put on this agenda, where it's like the correlation of like mental health and medication, and finding out like all of our pigment detectives are essentially being medicated to balance out being depressive so they can do their job. And then you've got Ashaji, who's like pray the pain away, or you know, like toxic positivity, very just faithful She has faith, and if you have faith, you too will be.
And not the George Michael kind, the bad kind.
No, the bad kind. So I think it's an interesting book. There was also one thing that I wanted to talk about too, is called, so the company that Priscilla Kim worked for creates pigment kits. Just like this paint by numbers kit. So, it's a kit for processing grief.
Oh.
Or
Wow.
you can get a kit for processing. There was another one that they have. So, our main character, because she's been blasted at all angles by pigments,
Phrasing.
has issues. Phrasing. So it is recommended to her by the physician that I think it was by the physician, that she takes this grief processing journey. It's either that or she found it in Priscilla Kim's office or something.
No, it was recommended.
No, it was
No.
recommended, yeah.
She had to go find
She
out
had to go-
her,
she had-
her
Getting it
dead
prescribed
mentor
is hard.
Walter.
Yep.
Yeah. Her dead mentor, Walter, which I think it's also a fair thing to mention that the reason that a pigment detective's lifespan is so short is because they typically commit suicide. So, her,
Yeah, they don't
Partner
usually
and
live past
mentor.
middle age, right?
40, yeah. So,
Yeah.
her mentor and partner, Walter, killed himself. And so she's still kind of grappling with that, along with her father's disappearance. So it's recommended that she goes through this grief processing journey, they call it. And I forgot to write down the steps, but you get your pigments and Vaseline, and you go through, you paint them on your wrist, and then you cover it with Vaseline so so it stays there, so it's concentrated. And you go through the steps of processing grief, which one is red anger, blue sadness. Obviously you end with yellow sunshine, but you go through how to process your grief. And in this grief processing journey, they have one for mother, father, all sorts of things to help you process your grief. And the closest one she could get to was father. And I thought that was a really good chapter where we see her go through the gamut of emotions. Like they do Bull's Blood Rage, where the tape takes you through all the things that your father did to make you angry.
All right. So
Yeah, I like that chapter.
we always said grief as if it were a noun, but it was a pigment. It was Pigment 101 that mourning was a process instead. You couldn't just paint yourself with a melancholy inductor class color and call it a day. Luckily, Icarus had me covered. Their grief processing journeys promised to let users work through the 5 stages of grief in under 12 hours. Only hitch was you needed a prescription to get one, and no psychiatrist was going to see me on a Sunday.
So she uses Walter's contact.
It's a good idea. I love the little. It's such an interesting world, and
Yeah, it's
the
very
world building is very cool.
5 stages and their corresponding pigments were denial, sunshine yellow, anger, bull's blood rage, bargaining, cerulean guilt, depression, cobalt sadness, and acceptance, golden peace.
Golden Peace, that's it. I was like, there's something beyond yellow. Golden Peace.
Acceptance.
But I thought they mentioned at the beginning she ran across the grief processing journey and something else. There was a different kit as well that Priscilla had in her office. But I can't remember what it was. But I thought that was a really cool, if only that was real, it could help a lot.
Yeah, there's parts of it. And that's what I think it's interesting to discuss is there's parts of this world that are like, that would be really helpful, this is cool and interesting, and the other parts that are like, should we manipulate emotions this way? Like, yes,
Sure.
that is a cool idea, but it's such a slippery slope.
Here we can see how
And-
harmful it is.
Yeah. And it's
Could
such
you
an interesting
imagine, like living in Seattle, how many people would be on like a prescription strength sunshine yellow, like
I mean,
all year round?
like, technically, we
They
like,
are.
They are.
Vitamin D.
Yeah, or like antidepressants and vitamin D equal sunshine yellow, or like,
Yeah. It's really cool. This book, for me, it took a little bit to get into because they had to do so much world building in the first couple chapters that it's like pretty intense, and you're like, oh my god, like I finished 3 chapters, but now I need to go like have a lie down and think about and process this world that I've been transported to. The money thing too got me, where it was like, oh
yeah,
I'm gonna spend like $10,000 on a burrito.
Oh yeah, true. That was a little whack.
Yeah, because
it's like,
the United States is now a third world country and our economy
Exactly.
True.
collapsed.
So everything's
it was like transferred to what things cost in Argentina, I think.
yeah.
Which is
It's
super
wild.
funny.
Like,
Yeah.
I'm
It
gonna
always-
go pick up burgers
it
for
happened-
everyone, and I dropped $50,000 on the table. Okay.
Yeah, and it happened so infrequently that I forgot about it every time. So when it happened, it was like, what? Oh yeah,
A $50,000 tip. Hell yeah.
right.
It was, yeah, it was really cool. And like once I got through, I read the first couple chapters, took like a day or two, and then came back to it, and I was ready to go.
I struggled a lot, especially early on. Like
You
because
didn't like
Me
the
too.
voice of
I
the
didn't.
audiobook lady,
I,
right?
I didn't, and I started trying to read it, and it was worse. So I went back to the audiobook and finished it
I
on
also-
the audiobook. It was
I also did not love hers.
because for me it was very difficult. Like I don't know. Like I felt like the narrator kind of sped through certain things and glossed over things, and I was like, what? Like what?
Towards the end of the audiobook, the way that she was reading, I get what you're saying, because I was like, I wouldn't necessarily put the emphasis there, or yeah. So it was a little.
I feel like with the types of readers that we're dealing with for a lot of our past books, with how well they did, I think that's kind of why we're like a little picky too.
This was the first book in all the episodes so far that I've done audio. I usually just do the
Okay.
reading.
Yeah, fair. I guess for like maybe gendered or people who have been reading them a lot, I feel like with how well some of the other guys did with the other books, yeah, it was not as
Again,
well read.
the pacing of it was very
Yeah,
harsh, and
yeah.
I enjoyed the book. Like I had to get through it though. It was a slog at first, but like as much as the pacing of the action sequences like was definitely off-putting in some ways, it kept me engaged at times as well.
Fair.
In 1 hour, she sped through all of San Francisco, over the bridge to the house,
Never would happen in real life.
and
Makes
then
sense.
back to the ball. Welcome.
And the charity ball or gala, whatever they called it, the charity event was also interesting because it was like when all the characters came together for a moment. Like the only person who wasn't there was Pimsley, and it's likely because he wasn't alive
R.I.P.
at that point, right?
Did you expect him to die? I definitely
I did
didn't.
not. I thought he was going to be like this like character that sort of like. When they said he goes into hiding, I thought, oh well, he's gone. Like I thought like gone as in he's off to Aruba or whatever. I didn't think he was like dead.
Yeah, that was so. That was so sad.
I did not like that one yet. But I mean, you know,
I did.
I think he was probably my favorite character.
Yeah, mine too. But overall, slow burn, but pretty good read, good choice. So that's it for April. Next month, what did we decide? Fantasy.
Yep.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, and I've already
Thanks.
submitted my suggestions, I think.
Rex, that is true. So, anybody who's watching can also submit Fantasy Rex if you want in the Discord.
Please do. Please come in and bring in
yeah.
your ideas. We love to read what people suggest. It's like I've discovered so many new books thanks to the book club, and I'm thankful that we do it.
True.
Yeah. I don't think I would have heard of this book if Aaron
Don't
didn't
think I would have
suggest it.
Agreed.
So, yeah. Bring your suggestions. If you want to talk about them, we can talk about them. But yeah, good month. The Shamshine Blind by Paz Pardo. Good. Thanks for being here, you guys.
Thank you. Thank you for coming in. Thank
you.
you, viewers, for stopping by and listening to us ramble on about it. Thank you for providing the visual entertainment, Annie. I thought that was a great idea, doing color by numbers. It was perfectly like
It's not
on
my
key.
best work, but it'll do.
I love it. It's great.
Pretty.
Thank you.
All right. And we'll,
Kay Cartita would be pleased.
she would be so pleased.
She want me to start painting on my body to feel the emotions.
That's definitely a good note to end it on.
Oh boy, I love a good kind of cliffhanger ending. This book is not part of a series, but that leaves it open for us to decide Agent K's next move. I honestly didn't know what to expect with this book, but it's now one of my favorite reads. I'm so captivated by the idea of pigments in this world. In May, we will be reading The Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss. Thank you, friends, for listening and watching.